Hi there, welcome to Urbinary, the podcast cataloging the everyday and extraordinary in the city.
Okay. Hello everyone and welcome back to Urbinary. I'm Ali and today we're excited to have our guest Asef Ayatollahi. Together with Chanlin Wu, he has been one of the track coordinators for Track 1 titled Looking Toward a Sustainable Urban Future, Transition and Challenges. Today we'll delve into the discussion from his track. Hello Asef.
Hi,
Once more, Asef, thank you for joining us today. At Urbinary, we extend invitation to researchers who introduce targeted planning tools to address significant real-world challenges. These tools serve as a bridge between theory and research, which are often perceived as distinct entities. So let's not delay any further and delve right in.
Urbinary.
As the first question, we would like to know how Track 1 was organized, what the main topics were, and how participants were divided in the discussions.
Well, we selected three main topics in general that was based on our researches and also interest. And these topics were first about generally the urban comfort, so urban heat islands and how we can manage this issue, or how people perceive the comfort in the urban areas and what do they need. And the other side was about the energy, about the issue of the energy. So how we are dealing how we are dealing with the challenges currently in the urban areas, for instance, with the high demand of the energy in the cities, how we are managing to solve it, and we try to focus on the energy communities, that they are one of the new solutions, that not very new, but new solutions that we have in the cities to they try to manage this issue. And the last part was about the urban biodiversity and the nexus between the physical environment and natural environment, and how we are seeing this nexus and how we are trying to manage it, because we have a huge biodiversity loss in the cities, and recently there are many funds and progress about preservation of biodiversity and monitoring that. So we try to put it in somehow, we had a triangulation between these three topics, and they have somehow commonalities in certain cases, like the engagement of the citizens about the monitoring, also between the comfort and biodiversity and nature. There is a huge connection in the literature. So we try to monitor these three issues, and we try to ask the experts to join us and to give their opinions, and also have a good debate and discussion in the track.
Track 1's description highlights the growing challenges being faced today. With the hypergrowth of urbanized areas and urban inhabitants, societies are witnessing an unprecedented number of obstacles, some of them being more specific to our area, such as labor shortages, energy transition complications, lack of affordable housing, rising temperatures, decline in the purchasing power, just to name a few. With the backdrop of geopolitical fractures, cities are the first to bear the brunt of these challenges. In the contemporary world, with their growing needs and requirements, what do you think about the historical urban issues overlap with the modern challenges like labor shortages and escalating temperatures? And additionally, how do you view the role of cities in the principal arenas for confronting these complex and interconnected challenges?
Well, we have many issues from past that are also we can see them in cities today. For instance, we have population growth, which now we are still seeing this trend that people are migrating to cities and they are settling in cities with different needs. And this population growth causes, for instance, energy demand and also nexus between the built environment and nature. So there are some challenges I think also helped us to somehow frame this track, which one of them was about the challenge for the energy demand. So how people provide, how cities, how governments, how also people provide their energies for daily life or their activities, and the other one was about how we are dealing with the nature. So the cities are growing. There are many clashes somehow between the urban physical environment and natural environment and how they are interacting. And when we go further, we see that somehow these cities are important arenas because we can test many actions. We have many stakeholders. They are very dynamic, so we can find best ways to deal with each issue in each context. And on the other hand, we have many practitioners, many fields that we have to involve. We have to ask their opinion. So somehow cities are big, as you said, arenas which we can find different challenges from energy to nature to built environment, and we can solve these issues usually with the collaboration with all the actors and planners somehow as a mediator.
Continuing on, can you provide an in-depth discussion of the most promising strategies and programs that have been identified for facilitating sustainable urban transition as derived from urban studies? And furthermore, how do these proposed solutions effectively tackle the diverse scales and facets of urban planning and development?
Well, there are certain approaches that are emerging or they have been developed from past. One of them, for instance, was the idea about the nature-based solutions and renaturing measures in urban areas. So bringing back and reviving the nature in the cities. And we have certain examples of that, for instance, like in region of Lombardy, we have Forestami, and other examples in Europe that they are trying to, again, somehow befriend with the nature and have the nature back so we can use from its benefits. There are other parts, for instance, we have transportation-oriented development ideas or pedestrian development ideas, beside also the energy sufficiency. So there are somehow bottom-up initiatives that we have that has been introduced recently, I mean, within last 50 years. For instance, we have the energy communities or self-sufficient energy districts that they try to provide themselves their energy. They try to be sufficient and also be in a sustainable relation with the biophysical environment, with the nature, and also preserve the biodiversity. So these are somehow ideas that we have, and I can see them mainly through the communities. So bottom-up initiatives, what they want to do. And planners are usually somehow try to facilitate these issues rather than intervening directly. And that's it.
As talked about how the society was sustainable before the period of industrialization and how we are again moving toward being sustainable in the keynote speech titled Integrated Urban and Energy Planning, Advancing Toward Carbon Neutrality in Switzerland, produced by Professor Gilles Destiaux. How do you think these historical sustainable practices compare with the sustainability initiatives and approaches being implemented in today's urban planning strategies? And how can urban planners effectively balance the preservation of traditional sustainable practices with the need for innovation and adaptation in response to evolving urban dynamics?
Well, before that urbanization was a big trend generally in the world, we had many practices that right now are useful for us. For instance, in rural areas or in pre-urbanized areas, we have self-sufficiency using of local materials. They try to have something that we call today like a circular economy, that they try to use all the materials they have in hand and use them to sustain their lives. And we try to somehow see these issues in the track one to see how in the modern days, how in cities people are trying to do that, or how planners and other stakeholders are trying to implement these ideas. So first of all, I think there are some priorities about the circular economy and how we can use different materials. The other issue is about the, again, I think I'm repeating, but the other issue is about how we are dealing with the nature. Before urbanization, usually it was a very friendly relation with the nature, it was not a harm. Usually people try to restore whatever they consume. But now we are seeing in sustainable development goals and also other issues in lower scales that they are trying to implement this idea how to deal with that and how to be sustainable. So there are many practices, and also about the energy. Previously, we had many practices of self-sufficiency, of producing energy by themselves or consuming in a way that it is sustainable. But with the population growth and different demands, we need to somehow diversify our resources and find the ways to provide the amount of energy that is needed. And I think the triangulation between these three topics was also the main concerns for our track, to somehow develop and see different ideas, in this case from different perspectives around the world.
Um, the amazing case study of the District Energy Network Master Plan of Geneva, as presented by the professor in the same keynote speech, I would like to discuss a bit the financial status involved in the process, as sometimes going sustainable and energy efficient can cost a lot of money. In terms of financial sustainability, how does the District Energy Network Master Plan of Geneva aim to ensure long-term viability and affordability for both the municipality and its residents? And in retrospective, are there any lessons learned or insights gained from the budgeting process of the District Energy Network Master Plan of Geneva that could be valuable for future sustainable urban development initiatives?
Well, it was a very interesting presentation, and we saw a very nice transition of how Switzerland is trying, and also we focused on the case of Geneva. And the Energy District of Geneva is a very long-term plan which has two focuses on mainly on supply and demand. And the point is, on demand side, they're trying to focus on how they can optimize the energy consumption in houses and also other areas in the city, and how they can reduce the use for different perspectives. And the other part about this issue is about the supply. So the main focus was to diversify the supply of the energy, how they provide from the biomass energy or photovoltaic energy, and also the other sustainable sources. The point is, for for funding this initiative and for funding this plan, they try to collaborate with different stakeholders and actors, and also it is an incremental plan. So through different sections in different years, they try to find different actors and also sources for the financialization. And also government of the Geneva and Canton of Geneva has a good control on the plan. So there is one main director for this program which oversees how actors are collaborating. And on one side, it tries to optimize the usage, so it helps citizens a lot for reducing their energy. And also on the other side, on the supply, they are trying to collaborate with in the district and also outside of the district to fund this procedure. And it is not solely by the government, but it is also with the private actors or public actors outside of the canton. So it somehow solves the issue of how they want to finance this long-term program. And one last issue about this was that it was designed to work with several planning tools in the canton. So uh, unlike most of the plans that we see, sometimes they fail or they are not very efficient during the time because they are not compatible with the other planning tools. But this one has been designed to find best solutions in parallel or connected with the other plans, and somehow finances itself with them to be sustainable and also feasible during the time.
Let's move on. What do you think about how solar neighborhood planning aligns with the current trends and priorities in urban planning, considering factors such as population growth, rapid urbanization, and technological advancements? And looking towards the future, what are the key challenges and opportunities facing solar neighborhood planning in terms of scalability, affordability, and integration into existing urban infrastructure?
Well, the issue that we also saw in the some of the presentations on that time that is that we have a very high increase in the demand for the energy in cities, and this is one of the main challenges because implementation of such solutions requires a lot of funds and requires collaboration with the citizens. So there are two main challenges in this case, which I think in one of the presentations we saw this issue that first we need a very good engagement of the citizens if they want to implement their solutions around their houses, if they want to have this kind of connection with the city. And the other one is funding. Still, as much as I understood from the discussions, it is not a very affordable case, which is now it is evolving. It might be affordable within next years, but for now, in many contexts, is outside of the euro and also inside of the euro, we have this unaffordability. So there are three main issues remaining here. First, about the collaboration between the decision makers and people, how they want to do that and how they want to fund that. If the government supports this issue, maybe it would be easier. If people want to support it, maybe having communities, it is an interesting idea about the energy communities. The other issue is that how we want to uh, do this, how they want to implement it, and what technologies they want to use. Many countries or many cities, they do not still have access to very high and efficient panels and issues like this to support it, which it requires, again, a collaboration between the uh, different sectors in the action.
Can you paint a picture for us of what constitutes a positive energy district and its significance in addressing contemporary urban challenges? And give the increasing urbanization and energy demands, how scalable and replicable are positive energy district models across different urban contexts?
No, no, no. Okay, so positive energy districts are aimed to have equal or more than more production than they needs in the grid, and they need to be flexible and also functional. So they have to work during the time. The point is that these districts requires a collaboration and between the citizens themselves in the neighbor or in the higher scale that they have. And also, this collaboration requires an extension to the government, so how they want to manage the energy. There are three main issues here. One of them is about the infrastructure. If they have the infrastructure to somehow store the energy, to create the energy, and how they want to manage that. The other part about the legislative processes and how usually the local authorities are facilitating this procedure for them, usually connecting to the grid with creating energy. Maybe it is not fully funded, so it is not very uh, proficient for them to sell the energy to the grid, and also about how they want to implement the whole idea in a neighborhood. It takes a lot of time. The third part, beside the legislation and also in the infrastructure, is, as I said before, it is the collaboration between the citizens and how they see it. There are still many debates about how even we define these communities, how we have to see them in the cities, or do we need to integrate them, or they are autonomous, and what and whatsoever. But generally, the principle is to first of all minimize the energy demand for the houses, so they can, as much as they produce, they can also sell it, and also produce enough amount that even with the high demands, they can answer for their needs. And one last point is about the replicability, and it requires an studies in different contexts because at least not any in the cities, even in a very small scale, each two contexts are not similar to each other and they need different studies. And I think the replicability is still an issue because most of the frameworks that we have, for instance, it is about certain cities in Italy or certain neighborhoods, or they are very particular about with very high details about very small neighborhood. But if you want to replicate it in different environments, I don't know, in mountainous regions, in deserts, or different climates, we need to understand how we have to manage it and how we need to find the actors or what tools do we need. And this is still a big issue, and it has a lot of debate both in literature and practice that how they gonna develop it.
Urbinary.
Now, a key question we pose to all participants. How can we bridge the gap between academia and the broader community to translate academic insights into real-world impact?
Well, it it has a lot of answers, and I mean there are many. The debate is from many centuries ago. I think, and also it will continue for many centuries. But the interesting point is that at least I see that planners are not the ones that order everything, they plan everything. Today, planners are like the facilitators or medians between different parts of the city. So we are not trying to find the best solutions, implement it, and then assess it, and then replicate it somewhere else. We are somehow trying to facilitate the whole process, to talk with the citizens, to talk with the stakeholders, authorities, municipality, and see what do they think and find the optimal solution between them through a co-creation process and procedures like that. So bridging the gap between the academia and practice and how we can is through the planners, but planners are not the only decision makers, the saviors of everything. Planners are like that, they try to find the best from all the actors. And it is still a big gap. We have a lot of researchers that say we have many things in the theory are not implemented. We have many things in practice that are not thought about in the theory. But the only hope, I guess, we have is that we have many engagement processes. We have tried to put some frameworks for the co-creation, co-monitoring, I don't know, things like that, that can help both sides to find the optimal solution. And this was the issue that we try to focus in our track, to see how planners are trying to be medians, to be facilitator in different parts, both on the energy side, both on the biodiversity side, about the urban comfort, how they try to optimize different challenges and different weights in the city.
Thank you, Asef, for your insightful discussion on such an important topic. It was really enlightening.
Thank you very much for inviting me today, and it was a very interesting conversation.
Urbinary.
And for our listeners, stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we'll further exploring this topic with interviews featuring Kozar Kazemi. Urbinary is produced in collaboration with Poliradio, the official radio channel at Politecnico di Milano.
Urbinary. The podcast cataloging the everyday and extraordinary in the city.